Welcome to Friends in Fiction, 5 best-selling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristin Hannah, Christy Woodson Harvey, Patty Callahan Henry, and Mary Alice Monroe are 5 longtime friends with more than 80 published books to their credit. In 2020, they created Friends in Fiction to provide author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, and to highlight independent bookstores. These friends discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It is Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's time to welcome you to Friends and Fiction, 5 best-selling authors, endless stories. I'm Patty Callahan Henry, and I'm hosting tonight, and we are thrilled that you're here with us.
Hi, I'm Mary Alice Monroe.
And I'm Mary Kay Andrews. I lost my place.
That's who you are.
And that's who you are.
I'm Kristin Hannah.
I'm Christy Woodson Harvey.
And as you know, part of our mission from the inception of this show is to support independent booksellers. And this week, we are supporting Wellesley Bookstore in Boston. And you can too, and we will talk about that in a bit. But we have quite the night ahead of us, as we will be diving into the world of Kristin Hannah, the New York Times bestselling author, and now the co-producer of the #1 Netflix series, Firefly Lane. We'll be hearing about the deep and incredible research she did for the extraordinary and instant #1. You're going to get tired of hearing the word #1 tonight. New York Times bestseller, The 4 Winds. We're going to talk about reinventing yourself, about writing from the heart, and we just might ask her how it feels to be #1 in everything in 1 week's time. Everything. In other words, tonight we are welcoming We are welcoming the KH Club, because we have Christy, Kristin, and Kristin, all with the last name that starts with an H.
And I am actually a Kristin with an IN also. I just go by Kristin.
Crazy? Yes.
It is crazy. So Mary Kay, Mary Alice, and I are talking about forming our own club, but we don't know what it's going to be called yet. So any ideas of our club name are welcome in the comments.
And you know, my real name, or you know, my father, when I took on the pseudonym Mary Kay Andrews, said, "What is your alias again?" But my real name, alias. I said, "Daddy, that's for criminals." My real name is Kathy Hogan, so I'm another KH.
Another KH.
Yeah. But I want to talk about another Kathy Cunningham, who is the founder of Mama Geraldine's, and she was she was successful, but unfulfilled radio executive in Atlanta. And one night, while she was doing what we all do, sipping wine and snacking on expensive cheese straws, she realized her Mama Geraldine's own cheese straws were way better. And so that's how the idea for Mama Geraldine's was born. Mama Geraldine's cheese straws now come in 6 varieties. They are the best-selling cheese straw in the U.S., and the cookies are lovely too. And so, you know, yummy snacks and woman-owned empire. And my other thing that I love about them now, they have the little individual packs. And so, you know, if you're having people over and people are worried about, you know, cross-contamination, you can. You can just put your little snack packages out. And the other thing is that way other people aren't stealing your snacks.
Good thinking.
Right.
I like it.
We hope you all get behind a woman-owned empire like Mama Geraldine's and like Friends in Fiction. This is our little empire.
Yeah.
We haven't elected an empress yet. We're taking nominations. So we hope
can't be somebody with the name Kristin. I'm just saying.
It's honestly probably going to be Kristin Hannah, given how the week's gone for her.
Exactly.
Why not?
He's winning.
We hope that you will try Mama Geraldine's, and you will be glad you did. And plus, you get 20% off on your online order with the code all caps Fab5.
Awesome. And we also want to mention our partner, Page One Books, who offer a book subscription package that we absolutely love. So what happens basically is when you subscribe, you fill out a survey and tell them what you like, what you don't like, the things that interest you about books.
Like
And
books that all are by Christians.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So you can just check the KH box and it's fine. You'll just get a steady diet of Kristin Hannah, Christy Woodson Harvey, and Kristin Harmel. No, I'm kidding. So when you subscribe, they hand select books for you each month based on those preferences that you've expressed and also based on their book knowledge. And because the reads are actually being chosen by real live independent booksellers as opposed to an algorithm, you're getting something that's really personally suited for you, really personally chosen for you. So the subscription package, which can run 3, 6, or 12 months, is a perfect gift for a book lover, even if that book lover is you, which I like. It's always nice to buy yourself a gift, right? Yeah. So first-time subscribers get 10% off with the code FAB5 at pageonebooks.com. But Patty, I know you were going to try to jump on me and bring in our guest, but it's not time to make this like a 3 Kristin segment quite yet. Because before you do, we have something for all of you out there. Erica, do you have a video you can play for us? Hi, it's Kristin Harmel from Friends and Fiction, and I'm here with Christy Woodson Harvey, Mary Kay Andrews, and Mary Alice Monroe to tell you all about why we loved Surviving Savannah, out March 9th from our dear friend, Patty Callahan.
No one can turn a phrase like Patty Callahan. The language in this book is breathtaking. I was on that ship.
Patty Callahan breathes new and compelling life into a forgotten chapter of Savannah history with Surviving Savannah.
Patty Callahan writes from her heart into the hearts of her characters, straight into yours. You will love this book.
And for me, that message of how we can all survive the surviving really hit home, especially in the midst of these strange times we find ourselves in now.
Surviving Savannah is the sweeping story of the Titanic of the South. Order now wherever books are sold.
You're gonna love it.
Yay! Okay, you guys. Okay. So I am wearing contacts live in our first show, and that was probably not a good idea. So everybody out there, they did that behind my back. And if anybody is going to do something behind your back, let it be that. No, thank you. That is really sweet.
We're doing other sneaky things too. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not going to say what, but we love you and we love your book.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
9 days.
I keyed your car today.
I would have noticed that. All right, it is time to bring on the Kristin Hannah. Could you bring Kristin in, please, Erica?
Yay!
Welcome, Kristin.
Yay!
Welcome. We are so happy that you're with us during these extraordinary weeks in your life. And I think we're going to have to choose some rapper names tonight because so many Christys and Kristins. So if we get mixed up, we will do that. But welcome, Kristin. We're so glad you're here.
I am so glad to be here too. I think I was one of your first guests, so it's really exciting. I was number one. It's exciting to be back.
You're always number one.
I
Kristin.
knew. Get
Oh my gosh, see, you're gonna get sick of number one. It's crazy.
You're the OG.
Yes, you are first.
You're our first. It's
And
amazing.
it was memorable. Anyone who hasn't seen the episode can go to our website and watch it.
Yeah.
I should go back.
That's exactly right. And Kristin was on her phone. It was pretty funny. It was our early days, but it was great. It was great. Well, Kristin, as you know, and as I think a lot of you out there know, we have partnered with Parade.com, and we are writing an essay each week for their online magazine. And so this week, I got to write about the joy of unexpected snow days, or really just an unexpected day off, especially, when you're a child and it's magical and fun. And Kristin, I saw all your snow photos in the Pacific Northwest, and it looked like wonderland. And so I'm sure they're not uncommon where you are. They're a little more uncommon where I am. But once I read that you said writing has become such a part of you that if you go more than a day or two without it, you feel on edge. And as writers, there are no office hours. So I'm just wondering, what do you think? I mean, do we ever, even in our heads, take a day off?
That is such an interesting question, Christy. And the longer I've done this, my answers to these kinds of questions change. I've been doing this 30 years, and, now we're 24 novels. And I would say, like, in the last 5 years, I do take more time off now. And it's been an interesting thing because, I was for many, many years on a book a year cycle. Yeah. And what that means in the real world is you finish a book and you get an idea very quickly and you move on and you begin again. Right. And you have a compressed time to edit, And so when I got to a point where my son was gone and it was just me and I was doing this just for me, and I decided to take more time with each book. I went from 1 year to 2 years, and now I'm on 3 years. And the reason that I do that really is not because I don't love writing just as much, but I now need more of a life to keep filled up. I need to see my son. I need to see my friends. I need to travel. I need to do a lot of things. And I have found that I'm a better editor and I'm a better writer when I walk away sometimes for a 2-week vacation. I mean, I'm still driven and dedicated and OCD and obsessed and all of those sorts of things. But I do have a lot more time in between now.
Oh, that is so inspiring. It really is. And I'm listening keenly. Yes. And, I was at dinner just over the holidays, and jokingly, one of my son-in-law said, "Oh, Mary," they call me Mambo. You're addicted to work. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that was not I don't want to be addicted to work, but I think it's because we all work so hard, so many hours, and we love what we do. It's not like we're drudging it. So I started as a reprieve for myself. I just started turning off, unplugging in the mornings. And it's been rough, I'm sure I irritate a lot of people because I miss things.
The truth is, I would rather write than almost do anything. I mean,
I know that's the problem.
Writing. And when writing is going well, it's like skydiving. You're on top of the world. Better. And
it is.
I think you get addicted to that feeling of how fun this job can be.
That's it.
That's
so
true. I had not an unexpected snow day today, but an unexpected sunny day.
Me too.
Oh yes,
here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm down at Tybee, and it was 71 degrees, and I've been working all morning, and I just told my husband I am going to go walk out onto the beach and sit there for 15 minutes and get my vitamin C, which I think it's actually you get vitamin D, Patty. Do you get vitamin D from
the sun? The only medical concern to me.
You guys did something that I was watching, in my stocking of Friends in Fiction. And I can't remember when this was, but you did like a we will write together every morning.
Writing sprints.
And I have to say, I have found that sort of impetus from friends. I have one girlfriend in particular. And, if someone doesn't produce, we want to know why. And it's a great motivator to get something done, because we all know that not all your pages are great, that not all your days are great. But even, when you look back months later on a day that was the worst day possible and you were pushing a rock uphill, you can't tell that page from the page on the day you were flying. So I think that's a great tip for new writers, to find someone that that they can be a partner with and be an encourager with. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
accountability, I think, has been a great part of the success that we found. That was sort of one of those unexpected gifts we found in the midst of
The pandemic.
Yeah.
Although I remember, Kristin, you said you were going to pull out the whip and start the group again.
I
think
know.
we-
I
think we should.
I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. Oh man, I know.
Tomorrow
I
morning.
need to.
Tomorrow morning, 7:00.
Right, all right. Hey, I'm on it. I'm there sitting down every day. I'm just so worried I'm going to bother you guys. But yes, okay, we need to start doing that again. You know, I've had a real struggle with the taking time off. I used to be better about this. I used to say, you know, weekends are for my family unless I absolutely have to work. And this pandemic has really thrown me for a loop. I mean, as you all know, I've talked about this before, you know, as some of you may know, I have a 5-year-old and he's not in school right now. And so I've lost all those hours that used to be my writing hours, which makes me feel like I have to make up for them elsewhere. So I'm getting up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to write every day. I'm writing in the evenings. And I'm like, on Sunday, I worked a 13-hour day. I mean, it's like in finding places to fit the hours in, I've lost the ability to turn it off also. And I, you know, I need to go back to this episode and listen again to what Kristin said. Because you're right. I mean, you're a better you and you're a better writer if you can live that life outside of your books also. So I need to learn to be better at doing that. Well,
it's a big difference doing it with no kids in the house and doing it with a 5-year-old.
Huge difference.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was there when my son was, you know, your child's age. I was exactly like you. I mean, I did that for, you know, 20 years probably. It took a long time for me to get to the point where, I don't know. I mean, in some ways you have to say, I'm prepared to disappoint everybody.
Yes.
It's a hard thing. Yeah.
It's so true.
Ooh, that's a line I have to remember.
I'm getting a lot of lectures this week from my family. So I got to back. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Kristin. All of the Kristins are right. Life is short,
as we usually are.
As you usually are.
I don't know. The MAs we're doing pretty good. The double MKMA.
But there is something about, you know, I also think there's something about not really being able to go anywhere. It's like we've lost our time. It's not like we're going out with friends or we're, you know, I mean, maybe minimally, but not like we used to be. So your weekends and your weekdays are just all, they run together. And I think in some ways, I don't know about y'all, but I think writing has kind of been the thing that has like saved us a little bit.
It's been our life preserver, 100%. And I think too that what you just said, Christy Woodson Harvey, I'm using everybody's full name because this is too much. But the days blending together, right? So we used to have these more structured, this is when I travel, this is when I go on vacation. This is, and it's been much easier in this time to get off balance. To work too much because we're stuck anyway.
The other thing too, I think, Patty, is that the thing that several of you are doing now, you know, particularly Kristin and Christy, as you're doing like one book a year, right? The discipline that you learn from that is life-changing. You know, it's hard and you always feel like you're letting something go or something isn't quite right or you're going in too early or you're not editing long enough. All of these things, you know, build up on your shoulders and everyone wants the book now. And you learn this skill set, which is you can write fast.
That's true.
You get to the point where you can write fast, but you can also put some time into it. It's kind of life-changing, but I think you have to learn the whole skill set first.
I agree. And there's a confidence that comes with it.
And a reliability, you know,
reliability
for yourself and your publisher and everybody.
Such a good point.
Okay, Kristin Hannah, you must be floating on air this week with all the #1 things. So tell us about The Four Winds. How do you describe the novel when someone asks you about it?
Well, I've hardly been asked about it in the last couple of weeks. So
right.
Is anybody even reading it?
Barely anyone's read the book. No one's heard of
Why
it.
don't we tell everybody about this novel that's just out called The Four Winds?
It's one of the weird things about this is that here we are, I'm in week 3, I think. And thousands of people have read it. I mean, usually I would go on a show like this 3 weeks in and like you guys would have read it. And so it's this whole new world to have the visibility that this book, has had. And I certainly didn't see it coming. I don't, maybe someone did, but I don't think so. It's this, it's the lightning in a bottle that comes from the nightingale and the great alone. And all the things that we've talked about before, the right cover, the right packaging, the right month, the right story at the right time. And, this was a scary book to bring out in the middle of a pandemic. But it was all, I turned it in before the pandemic hit. And I worried, who is going to want to read a book that talks about, resilience in the face of such hardship? But I guess I got lucky.
Turns out
I think it's
everybody.
exactly what we needed.
Every person in the world. It's the book we all need.
No, that's true. It's exactly what we needed at the right time. And I think sometimes that's the serendipity, or even being a little prescient as an author, that you pick something, and when it arrives, the time is there.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that kind of courage of choosing a book, I have loved the way you've had the courage to really decide what story you want to tell, and it's not genre specific. You just choose the story you want to tell. Alaska, the Great Alone, I tell you, that book haunts me to this day.
Same.
It really does. And the World War II books. And now you moved on into the Great Depression. And the fact that you never put yourself in a box is really, like I said, courageous, but it's also inspiring. What does that kind of freedom feel like? What do you think about when you say, I can write about anything I want, and where is that going to take me?
Honestly, Mary Alice, answer 1 is fear. Because after a lot of years in genre and writing a book that I became very comfortable with, I knew what my readership was going to be. I had a good sense of what my reviews were going to be. Some were better, some were worse, but I was comfortable in that space.
Right.
And I knew what readers expected from the kind of books that I was writing. Predominantly the ending, but also the journey. And so when I sat down, to specifically say no more, now the whole world is open to you. Do you want to bring a fantasy element? Do you want to have an unhappy ending? Do you want to do time travel? And it's scary. It's scary because you're standing at the edge of the cliff and life's pretty good, and you're still going to jump. And so it's, I don't know. I mean, I'm very happy, obviously, that I did it, but every time it feels a little bit like reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, I would think so, because you have to say, how am I going to tell this story now?
Right. And I remember, when I left genre, paperback romance, when I left paperback romance in 1990, whatever, and I went to this really great and terrifying Oz of an editor over at Random House. And, we worked on a book called On Mystic Lake, which was my my hardcover.
Oh, I love that book.
You guys remember that?
Oh my God, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
There was really no book like that out there then. You could either be Danielle Steele and Laverne Spencer, or you could be Ann Tyler, and there was no room, to be anything else. And I remember my editor saying, Kristin, if you write 3 books like this, you can write anything you want. You can go anywhere.
Oh,
You
wow.
succeed.
Wow.
And at the 4th book, she said, okay, just 3 more. All you need to do is 3 more books like this. And then it was 3 more books like this. And
But success begets success.
I just realized that I simply had to say, I'm done. And I walked away from a publisher. I walked away from a contract. I walked away from everything to say, I'm going to try something and, we'll just see how it goes. So I took
Bravo, my dear.
substantially
Bravo.
less money to sort of reinvent myself. And that's Firefly Lane.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Kristin and I have the same editor, and I left a house I loved and an editor I loved because it just felt like time. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I told you the story, Kristin, I went to see this incredible editor that we share, editor/publisher, Jen Enderlin, and I had my agent was with me, and they had put Firefly Lane on the coffee table in Sally Richardson's office. And my agent, Stuart, looked at me and he pointed to that jacket and he said, that's what a house that understands you and an editor that understands understands not what you've been doing, but what you could do.
Yeah.
The potential.
It's amazing how revolutionary that cover is now. Now it's like, within a year there were 100 of them.
Oh, right.
But at the time, it was like, wow, so you're saying you can be romantic and somewhat serious at the same time, and that female relationships matter as much as a love story, and that was all pretty revolutionary back then.
Yeah. I have figured out, maybe you share this concept that if it doesn't terrify you, why are you doing it with writing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You said that last time you came on the show, because I was thinking about writing something that terrified me, and I did. So thanks.
I love it.
It might be bad, and if it is, that's on you.
It's not.
And it's hard because the whole industry. I mean, we're very lucky. Like Mary Kay said, we have Jen Enderlin, who is, I think, unbelievable and embracing and thoughtful. But the whole industry is designed to sell books, and women writing for women, and especially kind of a genre field. I remember one editor said to me one time, but you guys keep the lights on. And you understand that it's very important that these books come out, and they come out with big numbers. And so when you say, I choose not to be certain that I will sell, it scares them as much as it scares you.
It scares you.
And yet we look around us, and it's very difficult for genre to really hit the big numbers without some kind of a breakout element.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you've kind of shown the way, not just with this book, but the last 2. But this book, it's so immersive. I could taste the grit and the dust.
Yeah. Drank a lot of water. Yeah.
I wish you would talk about. I read somewhere that a photo kind of inspired you. And was that a Dorothea Lange, one of those Dorothea Lange farm security administration photos? Was that sort of the touch point for you for Four Winds?
There's a photo called The Woman of the High Plains. And I think I posted it on Instagram a while ago.
Maybe that's what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was impossible to look at this woman and not see, everything I love in a story. She's scared. She's she's nervous. She's desperate. And yet she's standing tall. She's looking out towards some future. And I just knew, looking at her, that that she was a mother standing there trying to figure out which direction do I go to save my children.
So powerful.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's hard to do better than that. And,
Right.
and the thing I will say, I think that the reason these books are selling so well, like from Nightingale on, is because I combine a genre sensibility with sort of deep emotion and a lot of research. And so the books feel big and epic and sweeping and emotional and all those things, but they also, even for their length, they move. You know, I believe in a book that you have to keep turning the pages.
Yeah.
And I think that's an area that I really believe is opening up, because people love books that make them feel something, and that's what we were trained to do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Emotion is the key.
Yeah.
So true.
All right. So, Kristin, each week, you know, we choose an independent bookstore. And this week you chose was Wellesley in Boston. And I want you to tell us real quick why you chose it.
Oh, you know, I looked around. There's so many. I mean, as you guys know, there are so many wonderful, wonderful booksellers and indies, and they need help right now. And so it was very, very difficult. But one of my best book events ever was in Boston, and I just love these guys. And I thought,
awesome.
Let's, you know, bring them into this great event.
Well, thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
Kristin, I assumed you chose them because I was born at the hospital, like just down the street from them.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't it. I thought we were working on like a Kristin H wavelength.
No, I did know that. Yeah, that's
okay, good.
She didn't
So
want
funny.
the rest of us to feel left out.
I didn't want to single any of us out with her love. Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a great bookstore, and they're offering us 10% off of all of our upcoming releases, including Patty's beautiful Surviving Savannah out in a couple weeks, and as well as Kristin Hannah's The Four Winds, in case there's anyone in the country who hasn't bought it yet. But the discount code is FF10. So you get 10% off at their website, and the links are on our Facebook page. So speaking of The Four Winds, here's what the New York Times said about it. It seems eerily prescient in 2021, with its Depression-era tale of blighted land, xenophobia, fear of contagion, and determination to join forces and rebuild. Its message is galvanizing and hopeful. We're a nation of scrappy survivors. We've been in dire straits before. We will be again. Hold your people close. Wow. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, that is, I can't even, first of all, I can't even imagine opening up the New York Times and seeing that. I mean, that's just so, how awesome. Yeah, good for you, Kristin. But so as you know, I wrote to you and told you how much I loved the book. We all loved it so much. And I've been struck again and again this last year by the idea that historical fiction is so strangely relevant now, more relevant than ever. So that idea of being almost led into the future by recalling the moments of the past and the things that those moments of the past have taught us. I know you said you turned this in before the pandemic began, but did you have any idea how resonant this book would be for today? Maybe not just, pandemic related, but, just it feels kind of like the moment or the book we needed for this moment in time, even removing the pandemic from the situation. And in addition to that, do you think that readers are finding comfort in these stories from the past, and why?
Well, first of all, no, I'm really not that smart. Obviously I was interested in ideas, climate change, environmental disasters, how we treat each other, how we look upon each other. Those things were definitely what spoke to me. I did not foresee, the pandemic. I didn't, see that coming or anything. But I have two things to say about that. One is that I think that we writers are like open individuals, and we look around and we see what's happening in the world. We have an opinion on it. And the way we express our opinions is often through our work. And so you go back, you know, like when I was writing The Nightingale, it never occurred to me that it would feel as relevant as it did when it came out. And then I took on, you know, survival groups in Alaska, and that became sort of relevant. And I think it's not so much, you know, that I see what's coming, it's that I see what is. And then I look back in history for a time that has something to say about where we are right now. And, you know, that's the thing about history. What's past is prologue. Everything has happened before.
That's so true.
And when you look at it, like you look at Surviving Savannah, you look at, there's a lot of books out right now. Jess Walters, This Cold Millions. There's a lot of books that are dealing with the kind of disenfranchisement and fear that we feel right now. And I think it's because, you know, in the last 10 years, this sense in America has been building, and we are responding to it in the way that we do best, which is trying to say, like, I think the thing that one of the reasons The Four Winds is so resonant with people is what it ultimately says is you can survive. We have been through this before. We have survived much worse than what we're going through right now, and we will survive again. And that's a message I think that we almost always need to hear.
But especially now.
You're absolutely right. And your book is just such a beautiful reminder of that. And I love that idea of using the past to teach us lessons that resonate today. It's incredible.
And you do really write about these very universal themes, whether it's in, you know, these past 3 books or even looking back toward the past. I actually remember when The Nightingale came out, my first book was getting ready to come out. And I came to Quail Ridge to your signing, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing this one day. And I remember you talking about Firefly Lane and how that was such a big breakout for you. And I've been thinking about that a lot with the huge success of the show, and how, even though it's years later, you know, these universal themes still are so resonant for us. And I think, you know, especially with Firefly Lane, but really in all of your books, you know, friendship is a lifeline for us in real life, and it is in these stories. And you also write so beautifully about the family that we choose for ourselves and how important that is. Can you talk to us a little bit about those themes in your novels?
You know, let me just say first, before I get onto themes, and remind me because I will forget, we are living in this moment that I don't know that I ever could have actually imagined 20 years ago or 25 years ago when I started. This moment where women's stories are front and center. You know, this surge of women's historical stories, you know, primarily, I'm so
glad that was you and not us.
What are your girlfriends? Yeah, women.
Primarily World War II, but I hope that The Four Winds is one of those books that opens up all of history, that reminds publishers and readers and everybody that there's a lot of women's stories out there to tell, and we can move through a lot of different times. And this is true, you know, we're seeing with Firefly Lane, we're seeing on Netflix, we're seeing films like Bridgerton, you know, series like Bridgerton come out and change the landscape, and people are noticing that women buy books and women read and women watch series, and there are opportunities for us that I don't think we've ever had before.
Well, that's most encouraging.
There's
a lot of writers out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great. And then with regard to, you know, the universal themes, that is something that from the very beginning has been sort of the hallmark of what I do. You know, what I'm trying to do always is to write a story about a specific woman or a specific relationship or a specific family, but I want it to feel like it's everyone. You know, I want you to feel like that's your mother-in-law, that's your sister, or it could be, because I think that in our universal experience, we sort of share a level of emotion that is just deeply powerful. And so I'm really pleased to see all of our stories mattering. I mean, look at how many of us are now hardcover. I mean, that just never would have happened 15 years ago. So I think that's showing how much these stories are valued.
Yeah.
Yes, well said.
That's such a good point. Yeah, for sure.
So we're supposed to remind you about theme.
About what?
She said it, right?
I think she did.
Okay. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So our lives, as we've seen this year, our lives turn on a dime sometimes. You know, from outside forces, or sometimes when we change our own path on purpose. And in that extraordinary New York Times piece about you, you talked about how when you were growing up in California, you never wanted to be a novelist. But then your mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in your third year of law school, everything changed. And then also when you decide to write The Nightingale, everything changed. So I want you to talk a little bit about those whys in the road. Sometimes they're from outside, sometimes they're from inside choices.
That's an interesting thing. I never would have put sort of those two stories together in a single narrative. I think that I was destined to be a writer. And I think my mother knew this in the way that we know our children. I mean, you know, we just know them that well. We know what their strengths are. And, you know, she definitely put me on that path. And I got to work the way I did in law school or undergrad or anything else. And it was 10 years before I thought to myself, you know, I might have talent at this. Maybe, you know, maybe this is more than just hard work. And that was the moment when I started thinking to myself, okay, if, you know, you can do this now, you've written like 10 books, so you can write books. People like your books. You need to find out what you can do. You need to find out how good you can be. And that was the biggest change of all of them, was trying to just get better with every single book.
Yeah, I just thought it was fascinating looking at the whys in all of our lives. And you had a big one at that point and then a big one at that point. And sometimes they're from the outside, your mom getting sick, and sometimes they're internally driven. But then we take that why in the road instead of trying to keep going straight. I think it's fascinating because in my books, I'm a pretend psychoanalyst. So I like to figure things like that out. So we have reached the time where we get to hear from our community and they love to chime in. So Mary Kay?
Yeah, well, so Stephanie Brown, of course, says, I love all her books. She loved rereading Firefly because what a friendship, and watching the Netflix series. And she's enjoying the fashions and the flashbacks and this music. She wants to know, what is your favorite song from that era?
You know, whenever I think of the 70s, I think Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. It's
I wouldn't have thought that was it.
The first album I ever, you know, I walked down with my own money, bought the album, probably listened to it, you know,
I love that.
And
I'm
so
sure you had those boots too, those giant.
Actually, I have them now, Mary Kay. I couldn't afford them then, but
I love it.
Show it, prove it. Let's put your foot up. And then Stephanie also wants to know, are you more like Tully or Kate from Firefly Lane?
I'm a Kate. In fact, Tully is was always one of the most difficult characters for me to write because she's outside my comfort zone. I don't know a lot of them. And so she was always, you know, I was always thinking, oh, don't go there. And, you know.
Well, I have a question from Rhonda Parrott. Okay. She says, I have been a fan for decades. I have to admit, after reading your books, I feel so emotionally drained. Probably a half a box of Puffs Plus used. So, how do you feel after writing your books?
Oh, I get this a lot. You know, everyone thinks that I'm Kathleen Turner from Romancing the Stone, you know, where there's Kleenex flying and a cat next to the typewriter, and I'm sobbing at the end of my book, you know. It's actually not true. I'm a very easy crier in life. I'm a very hard crier in my own books. I have only actually cried while writing or in my own books 2 or 3 times. And when I'm likely to feel that way is when the books are in what we call page proofs. So I can no longer change it. I can no longer fix it. And for the first time, I read it as a reader, as close as I can get. And so there was a scene in Nightingale that made me cry. Obviously, there's a scene in Firefly Lane that makes me cry. It's pretty close to home. And those are the 2 biggies. This one has an ending that made me cry as well.
Us too. So there you go.
Yeah,
us too.
So, Patty, are we moving away from the live questions?
Yes, I think we are going to have to move along. So go ahead, Kristin.
Okay, perfect. So Kristin Hannah, other Kristin, one of our favorite parts of our weekly show is receiving a writing tip from our guests. So we might pretend it's for our viewers, but really, selfishly, it's for us.
Oh my God.
Pen poised and ready. Can you give us your writing tip?
Gosh, you guys have probably gotten so many really great writing tips. I mean, you know, there's all the don't quit, sit in the seat, don't get up, write your pages. You know, there's all that stuff. But let me say something that maybe somebody else hasn't said. Okay. So here's what I do. If I'm sitting down, like when I am writing, like I'm sure you guys are, I am writing. There's no candle going, there's no bath salts, there's no soft lighting to get me in the mood to write.
Just the platform boots, right? So, just the platform boots. Yeah.
You just have to get it done. And so what I do in one of those days when I can't think of what to write, like I know where I have to be and I'm not there yet. And so there's this chasm in between where I am and where I need to be. And I can't quite figure out what to do. I just write description and bring each character onto the scene and see who says what. And that somebody says something that sparks something. The other tip that I have that has really helped me in the last few years, in both Nightingale and The Four Winds, there's a prologue, and this prologue is designed to tell you sort of what this book is going to be, what the journey you're going on is, and you don't know who's speaking. And I, as the novelist, did not know who was speaking. And I wrote the whole book trying to figure out who said that and when did they say it. And so it kept me from ever being really comfortable with what I was doing.
Now that's something I've never heard before.
I love that.
That is great. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So next year's books, there will be 5 prologues.
5 prologues. Mysterious prologues.
We're all going to have a prologue.
I know. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Actually, we tend to hear versions of writing tips, and they're always fascinating, but I've never heard anything like that one.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing. Well, in addition to writing tips, our viewers always love to hear what our guest authors are reading. So do you have anything that you'd like to recommend for us?
I do. Actually, I was going to hold up Surviving Savannah, but you guys totally stole my thunder here.
It's okay. We can double team.
Yeah, you can still say it.
Welcome.
Well, now I quoted the book. I loved it, Patty, as you know. So I'm super excited about that. But I am also holding up Lisa Scottolini's.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys have Lisa on the show?
Yes.
We're having her. Yeah.
We're with her in 3 weeks.
April.
Yeah.
April
coming
1st,
right
I
up.
think. Yep.
She is more fun than is legal. I'm telling you. So have a great time. And, this is another one of those books where she's really stepped out, I think, of her comfort zone and, is reinventing herself. And I always, I just love books like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
So,
awesome.
Thank
We
you.
can't wait to read it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because for so long, when you were reading historic fiction about World War II, it was like, okay, you're reading about the resistance in France, or you're reading about wartime England. And now Lisa's kind of flipped the switch with this book in Italy. And I know our friend Jennifer Robson has also got a book set in wartime. Yeah, Our Darkest Night, set in wartime Italy.
Right.
But I wanted to talk about the book that I have been listening to because Tana French. I'm going to do a podcast with Kristin, and I are going to do a podcast with Tana French next week. So I have been listening to, because I've had these long drives and other stuff going on, The Searcher, and it's so
good.
It's so beautifully written. It's such a powerful, poetic story, and I have to admit, this is my first book of hers, and it's a one-off. She does this great Dublin Murder Squad series that I'm gonna read now, but wow, The Searcher.
And I love a good audiobook, so thanks. Definitely want to pick that one up.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful cover, honestly. When that book popped up, it's like, wow. Okay, so we have a few.
Which I'm Irish, so
I was going to say, hardly can go wrong with something on the Green Isle. Okay, so we have a few amazing things to tell you about, but stay with us because you don't want to miss our final question for Kristin Hannah.
And I'm going to ask everyone if you know about our podcasts. So not only are our weekly shows available for you to listen to, but now we have extra interviews like we just talked about. So go check it out. And this week, Patty and Kristin have an episode called Books About Books. And they're interviewing both Catherine Ray of the Printed Letter Bookshop and Janet, and I hope Scalsing Charles I hope I got the middle name right. Janet Scalsing Charles of the big bestseller that we're all excited about, The Paris Library.
Yeah. And speaking of books, I would love to remind you about the bookstore, the indie bookstore we're supporting this week. Our independent bookstore of the week is Wellesley Books, locally owned independent bookstore in the Boston burbs. Mm-hmm. And they are known for their welcoming staff and their great children's department, unique selection of gifts for all ages. And of course, tonight, not just tonight, but until we get tired of it or they get tired of us, 10% off with our books, and of course Kristin's, with the code FF10. And so and that includes Kristin's Four Winds and Firefly Lane, as well as our recent and upcoming books. So don't forget Wellesley Books.
And I just wanted to say a big thank you again to our partners tonight, Mama Geraldine's, who are the maker of the country's best-selling cheese straw, and my personal favorite, the pecan cinnamony cookies, and our partner Page One Books, where real true book lovers hand curate selections that they know you will love and put them in a subscription box. So it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of buying. So we always love it when you support our partners, and we love them. So thanks to them, and thanks to you guys for supporting them so wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. And we wanted to remind you also about our book club, the Friends in Fiction Official Book Club. So they're doing amazing things. They're growing so fast. We've got Lisa Harrison and Brenda Gardner at the helm. This month, they're reading Mary Alice's The Book Club, which is just the perfect book club pick, right? So you can take part in that. You can chat about it with Mary Alice. They're going to be meeting with her in the middle of March. So you still have time to get the book and give it a read. So that's the Friends in Fiction Official Book Club on Facebook. And I also wanted to tell you before we get out of here that on Sunday, you're going to have another opportunity to go behind the scenes of books with us. We have author Julia Kelly, who recently released The Last Garden in England. She's going to be coming on Sunday at 5 Eastern to talk to us about setting. She lives in England, she writes about England, and she does it fabulously. So join us Friday at 5 Eastern.
And our guest next week on Wednesday night is hosted by Mary Kay Andrews and is the astounding Lisa Unger. And then the following week, I know, I'm so excited. And the following week, March 10th, we'll be having an outright party for Surviving Savannah's release. And wait until you see what I have in store. Kristin Hannah, you might just have to come back for the party.
Oh, come back, Kristin.
You should see what I have in store for these ladies. They don't even know yet, but we are going on a journey. All right, Kristin Hannah, one more thing we really want to talk to you about. You have said that you consciously put your characters through really terrible things.
Yeah.
And in doing that, they find out who they really are. I just love that. You put them through terrible things so they can find out who they really are. And I feel like reading them, then we get to find out who we really are too. And I remember a discussion you and I had back when we could travel and hug and see each other in the world, where you told me that when you were writing The Nightingale, you were watching Breaking Bad. And it taught you something along these lines. So I want you to talk to everyone about that because I think it's fascinating.
You know, it was one of those aha moments after writing 20 books or however many I had written. And I was watching not only Breaking Bad, but Game of Thrones at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And it was transformative to realize, like, wait a second, you can just keep upping the stakes. I mean, we all know that writing is about stakes. It's about conflict. We all know that. But I think I had gotten into a kind of a sensibility where the stakes were almost always emotional. And what Breaking Bad taught me and what Game of Thrones taught me is no, they can be physical. It can be, oh my gosh, the car crashed, you know, things that come out of left field and change the whole paradigm. And in fact, a girlfriend of mine, some of you know, Jill Marie Landis.
Oh, Jill.
She's still one of my besties.
So great.
And she read a very early draft of The Nightingale and she gave it back to me and she said, make it worse. We're watching it, make it worse. And and that was when I like brought in the second Nazi and the whole end of the book changed. And so I'm constantly now thinking, make it worse, make it be as difficult as it can possibly be so that people can get to the very heart of who they are.
Wow, that's writing tip number 2.
I know.
I love that.
That's cool.
I love it. When you told me that, it kind of shifted, and you probably see it in Surviving Savannah, like the peril, the constant peril, right? And this idea, it did, when we talked about that, it shifted things for me. And what I think is great is not only does it reveal who your characters are or who they can be or who they'll become, but when we're reading it, we get to say, what would I have done?
Right.
Who would I have become?
But
Who
also,
am I in that kind of stuff too?
And
it also goes.
You also, as a reader, start thinking to yourself, where is this going? I mean, remember when at the end of the first season of Game of Thrones, when they kill the hero? I mean, to me, that was this moment where you're like, okay, all bets are off. This program will go anywhere. They will do anything. And you never get to sit back and think, I know what's going to happen. And I think bringing that into fiction is huge.
It is. And people like to not to be surprised and not to be able to predict what that ending is going to be. So the more you throw at them, the more they're glued.
Right.
Oh, Kristin, thank you so much for talking to us. I wish we had another hour. It's so much fun talking to you.
So fun.
Well, I will
thank you for
talking to the party if I can.
Okay.
We would love it. We would love it. But this extraordinary month in your life, and you came to talk to us. So thank you for your inspiration.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for talking about changing your life. Thank you for talking about writing tips. You're incredible. We've so loved having you.
Well,
Thanks for
I
coming.
have to say, I am, so admiring of what you guys have done and how you pitched in the pandemic to help other writers and to support independent bookstores. And, I think a lot of people sat around and said, boy, I sure would like to do that. And I sure would like to help people, but you guys actually did. And so kudos to you. If I wasn't out of champagne, I would cheers you. But
to be honest, Kristin, it's been a blast. To be honest, Kristin, we've had so much time talking to the authors, and you're a favorite. We're so glad you came.
You are. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we hope for some more number ones next week. I don't know what else it could be.
That next one going.
We don't know what else.
Don't make us wait 3 years.
They're going to have to start creating some more number ones for Kristin to be a part of, because life's just going to get a little bit mundane. Yeah. There's really nowhere to go.
No pressure, but thank you.
All right. Okay, y'all. Run out or stay put for our after show and click at Wellesley Books and grab the 4 Winds. Pre-order any of ours. Join Friends in Fiction on our Facebook page, YouTube, and Parade.com's Facebook page. Give our podcast a listen, and now with original new interviews. And don't forget, we're on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. And that is a wrap.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And please subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here. Good night.
Oh my gosh, that was
Let's bring her back here so we can just talk with her.
I know. We
She's
should have
the
had
greatest. She's amazing.
Good Lord. Okay, we ended at 1 hour and 1 minute. I was like, okay.
Oh, Patty, so good. Excellent hosting job, Patty.
Yes, it was so good. And it's Kristin Hannah, so we could go a few minutes long, right?
Yeah. I'm sure people would have stayed to listen to her for another hour.
Yeah,
that's why I wish she was here with us now.
Yeah, we'll bring her back. We'll bring her for the parties. We'll bring her for the good stuff.
I love how at the end she brought it around.
Hey, Kathy, Mary Kay, you're muted. I can hear you. I can see your lips moving.
Oh, sorry.
Kathy, Mary Kay, her lips were moving. But okay, go ahead, Kristin. What were you saying?
I was just saying, I love how she brought it around in the end to something that kind of circled back to the 4 Winds. That idea of finding out who you are in the greatest times of darkness. I mean, she was talking about Breaking Bad and all the bad things being thrown at you and upping the stakes. But really what that is plunging us as deeply into the darkness as we can go, because that is when you find out what you're made of. And I love how that connects to the 4 Winds. And I really like how it connects to where we are today in February of 2021.
If I'm good enough with knowing who I am, can we go back to the light for a while?
I know. Yeah. I'm so ready. Let's follow that light.
I know the blue sky today was so great.
Today was magic. It really was. It was a beautiful day.
I can remember when I was trying to start writing my first book and then on into that, someone said to me, and of course I started out writing mystery, and they said, okay, what you need to do is to create conflict for your character. Have your character be chased by a bear and have the bear chase your character up a tree and then cut down the tree. And I feel like that's kind of like
what she's saying.
I feel like that's kind of what she's saying. I think back to I think I have a clue about what she was talking about with the Nightingale. It was like, how could I make anything any worse? Well, put a Nazi in the house.
It always makes it a little worse.
Move a Nazi, a horny Nazi,
right in there.
Into the house and then see what happens.
I
You know,
remember
one time
one writer talking. I remember one writer talking about how during one of the many we listened to, her tip was it was when you box a character or your hero in a corner, and they absolutely have you can't let them sneak out. There is no way for them to go. That's when they make not just a choice, but they make a moral choice, and it's that morality that decides if they deserve to get what their hearts desire or not. And I think that's like the 1-2 punch of giving them everything, throw it at them, but they have to reveal that they're deserving to win at that point too.
Yeah. Kathy, or Mary Kay, I just have to point out though that I spent an entire year writing a novel about a forest, and never once did you tell me to cut down a tree. I'm just telling you. I think you were holding that advice back from me. I literally could have cut down a whole lot.
You are so funny tonight. You're like, I'm like laughing like Ed McMahon back here.
And I was thinking too, when Mary Kay was talking about how Lisa Scottolini and Jennifer Robson went to Italy, you went to Poland for your new one.
Yeah,
Chris. You flipped it up too in the World War II genre.
And you know, the other thing, Pam Jenoff, the woman in the blue star, is also set in Poland. So I think it's
wow.
And she's actually been writing about Poland for a while. I think she lived there for a little while. And
you know, she worked for the State Department. Pam is a lawyer by training, and she worked for the State Department, and she was sent to Poland to work on reparations, World War II.
Wow. So she has a lot of background there.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm old enough to remember, and back in the day when, for historicals, it was England.
Right.
Don't go to France. Don't go to Italy. Certainly don't go to Poland. Stay in England. And look at what's happening now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I've gone from Peachtree Bluff to Cape Carolina. So I was like,
I've gone from South Carolina to North Carolina.
I went like over a bridge. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. It was a big leap, but y'all were there for me the whole time.
Yep. I tell you, when I go in the mountains, it's like, ooh, is anyone going to read the book?
Don't go to the mountains.
Patty went from England back to Savannah.
Back to England. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
But with surviving
jumping
Savannah,
back and forth across the pond.
But with surviving Savannah, you're going to go back to sea.
That's right.
Your descriptions of Savannah in this book are just magical. I mean, they really are. Like, they just make you. I'm like, like, I mean, I've been to Savannah, but just seeing Savannah through your pen is absolutely.
And you know, in the present and the past, not you know, you get to see it kind of through two different points of view, which is incredible.
But it was amazing. Patty and I were down on River Street 3 weeks ago, Patty?
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I mean, the book Surviving Savannah starts out on a hot summer day, but we're standing. Yeah, we're standing on River Street, which was where the wharf would have been in the day, and looking out at the river and the boats, the ships going out. And it was kind of like, oh my God, time stood still a little bit there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It makes me think like if you put vellum, you know how you put vellum over those books where the past goes over the present. What were you saying, Mary Alice? Sorry.
Well, the part for me though, I mean, I read a couple times actually is we knew it was going to have an explosion, but I was nail biting. I mean, when you knew what was coming, then you switch time, and I'm like, no, I don't want to change time. Go back.
And the ankle. Oh God, I can't. I'm not going to say anything else. Yeah. Oh my God. It was like, cut the tree down. She cuts the tree down.
She does cut the tree down. That's
very
down
a couple of times.
Yeah.
I got the advice. I didn't have to get the advice that is shipwrecky, like all the trees are cut down.
True.
The forest is gone.
I know. When they were on that, clinging to that thing, I was like, oh my God, I'm so hot. I'm so thirsty. I'm
so thirsty.
I have a sunburn. I know.
Okay, you guys are awesome.
Okay,
I will.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I had a book I wanted to recommend and I didn't, but it like so relates to what we're talking about. And it's nonfiction, which I know we don't normally do, but, and y'all probably saw this because I think it's like #1 right now, but Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima came out this week. And you want to talk about a woman whose like real life story has been the bear chases you through the forest and then you get up the tree and then they cut the tree down. Like that is her life. And she has built like this just one of the biggest cosmetic brands in the world and has been so successful. But she's just an amazing person. She's been doing all these lives all week with like Tony Robbins and Chrissy Metz and all these people. And it's been really incredible. But her story is so great. And I just, there were just things that Kristin was saying tonight about, reinvention and what we all do and being in the darkness and kind of coming back out of it. That really, it was like a good thing to read right now. It just makes you feel sort of like uplifted and like, I can do this. Yes.
We need that.
We need that. Yeah.
In the beginning of your book, Christy, there is a character who loses everything and starts a cosmetic company. Is it based on her?
No, I didn't even know about her.
Oh my God.
Oh.
I know. Kind of weird. That is really strange, isn't it?
That is
Yes.
Serendipity again. There's that. It's all
There it is.
channeling.
I'm telling you.
That happens. I think it happens so often. I was when Kristin was talking about the stories that kind of come to you, and I think as writers, it's important for us to have our antenna out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think your antenna just kind of quiver. And I think we should, I think it'd be interesting for all of us to talk about a time when our antenna kind of went, ooh,
Ding, 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 ding.
yeah. And I think we'll probably talk about that when we're talking about Surviving Savannah and everybody else's book. But I'll tell you what time I would love for it, just for like 1 minute, because we're all starving. We've all been.
I was going to say, but yes, let's do a lightning round. Go.
An antenna moment. I love antiquing, and I'm on all these websites, and I saw on an auction site a beautiful portrait of a woman who turned out to be an Irish heiress, and her portrait was sold at auction in Atlanta. And I got so intrigued with it, and I sent it to Patty, and I sort of looked. I sort of got sucked into it, and I thought at some point I'm going to Ireland and I'm going to write about this portrait and how, over the years it came to be in a house in Atlanta. Now, everybody else, tell me your antenna moment.
Go, Christy.
Okay. I'm not allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's the after show and it's just us and like 1,000 of our closest friends. So it's not that big a deal. So when we evacuated for Hurricane Florence, we went to Biltmore and we were touring Biltmore State. And I went home and I started reading about Edith Vanderbilt because they just don't say like a ton about her, and there's not much written about her. And I started doing a little digging and I was like, oh my God, like she basically saved all of this, like the estate and the family. And the reason that all of this is still here is because of her. And I was like, God, someone should really write a story about her. Someone should. So that's all I'll say.
There you go.
I love that. Mysterious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How about you, Mary Alice?
Oh, you're muted, Mary Alice.
Nope. Still. We
That's
can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Well, you're trying to fix it.
Weird.
Kristin, tell us real quick.
Antenna moment might have been when I was researching The Sweetness of Forgetting, and I had all these storylines, and the final one that fell into place that made the book what it is I just stumbled across in the research the story of the Grand Mosque of Paris and how Muslims and Christians had worked together to help save Jews. And it was this moment that fell into my lap and that shaped the whole story. And it felt like it had been delivered to me on a silver platter by fate. And all I had to do was accept that gift and then dig. And it became not just a core of that story, but a core of, I feel like I've written in some way about religion and how we're connected, even if we're different religions since then. It kind of set me on that journey. So yeah, that's it for me.
Oh, I have chill bones.
Okay, Mary Alice, you're unmuted.
All right, I
now.
hope you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay. Okay. I remember I usually have a species, as you know, and I already have planned out, but I had gone up like Christy. It was Hurricane Irma, and I'd escaped the hurricane with my PTSD of hurricanes. And I went to this farm to hide out while I was trying to work with rescue horses, which was the animal. And it wasn't working. You know, sometimes it just isn't clicking. And while I was there, we were helping out there were 300 plus horses that had come from the south to the Tryon Equestrian Center to stay. And so we're mucking stalls and feeding horses. And we're just all these women hanging together in this house, working together. And here we are one night, and Laura Rumbauer's wife was there. She was there. And the music was playing, and we're all filthy dirty. We're making a big pot of spaghetti. And we're laughing, and I saw the mother and daughter and the new baby and the dogs barking. And I looked around and I thought, wait a minute, this is the story right here. This coming together to help people. Mm-hmm. And usually it's much more planned, but I changed the book, and that was The Summer Guests. Wow. Completely different. Awesome. It was a nice moment.
Mm-hmm. How about Patty?
It is. It's crazy.
When did your antenna go up?
When am I antenna? You know, I think it's crazy. I think we can tell when we turn our antenna off because we feel like we're not getting any ideas. But I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, it was, and we'll talk much more about this in 2 weeks, but one of the craziest things that happened to me when I was writing Surviving Savannah is that I was trying to decide whose point of view to tell it from. And I was telling it from one woman's point of view, and the shipwreck hunters found her luggage tag.
That's just
amazing.
Oh yes, I know that.
And it's the only luggage tag. And it's the only luggage tag they have found.
You can't make that up.
It's crazy.
You cannot make that up.
That's, I think, the heavens coming down and pulling that out and saying, yes.
Just going, you're going the right way. Keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
I love
all right,
this moment.
y'all are amazing. Thank you for tonight. That was so
fun.
Everybody. Good night.
Good night. You did great.
Thanks everyone out there. Bye.
Good night, you guys.
Everybody.